Think nature's greatest mistake was not the monsters it created. It was the fact that it forgot how to let them die. 300 million years ago, the Earth broke one of its oldest rules. The circle of life, that ancient promise that everything returns to soil, that death feeds new life, simply stopped working. For 60 million years, nothing on this planet could decompose wood. Trees fell. They did not rot. They stacked. Layer upon layer upon layer, pressing into the muck of a world that could not clean up its own corpses. And in the suffocating humidity of those coal forests, something else was happening. The air itself was changing. Oxygen levels climbed to concentrations that would make a modern human dizzy, that would make fire burn hotter and faster, that would allow biology to run an experiment it has never repeated since. The experiment was scale. You assume insects have limits. You assume arthropods are small because they must be small, that physics demands it. You are operating on rules that did not exist here. In a world where pressure was higher and decomposition was broken, the architecture of life rewrote itself. Millipedes stretched longer than a grown man is tall. Scorpions swelled to the size of house cats. Dragonflies patrolled the canopy with wingspans that would dwarf a modern hawk. And beneath the black water, in rivers choked with unrotting vegetation, something far worse was waiting. A fish. 7 meters long. 2 tons of muscle and bone and teeth that did not simply bite, they rotated inward, locking prey into a throat from which nothing escaped. This fish did not stay in the water. 90% of the coal reserves that power the modern world, the electricity in your walls, the fuel in your furnace, came from this era. From a planet that choked on its own dead forests and could not figure out how to recycle them. How did a world governed by such monsters simply stop? The trees were not the monsters. The monsters were what the trees fed. Consider Arthropleura. 2.63 meters of segmented, armored nightmare. Longer than a professional basketball player is tall. The largest land-dwelling arthropod in the history of this planet, a record that has stood for 300 million years and will likely stand forever. Its exoskeleton was not merely hard. It was Chabam armor, a multi-layered, ceramic-like shell engineered to distribute force across dozens of overlapping segments. Each plate interlocked with the next, creating a chassis that could withstand the crushing humidity, the suffocating pressure, the sheer weight of existing in a world where oxygen made everything burn hotter, move faster, grow larger. Arthropleura did not scuttle. It processed. A biological tank, grazing on the rotting detritus of a forest floor that should not have existed. Each leg moved in sequence, a hydraulic wave of motion powered by hemolymph, pressurized fluid pumping through joints that had no muscles, only valves. But here is the correction to your assumption. Arthropleura was not the predator. Arthropleura was the prey. An 8-foot armored herbivore, and something was hunting it. The Pulmonoscorpius patrolled the swamp floor with the patience of a landmine. The size of a large house cat. Its telson, the venom-filled warhead at the end of its tail, could deliver a payload designed to paralyze creatures far larger than itself. But the true weapon was not the stinger. It was the eyes. High-contrast lateral vision. A sensory array that tracked movement across a 180-degree arc without moving the head. While you are looking forward, the Pulmonoscorpius is seeing everything. Every twitch of leaf. Every shift of shadow. Every heartbeat you do not realize you are broadcasting. And while you are watching the cat-sized scorpion on the ground, you have forgotten to look up. The Meganeura has already seen you. 70 centimeters of wingspan. A dragonfly the size of a crow, but faster. The low-frequency hum of its wings does not buzz, it vibrates the air like a heavy industrial drone. You feel it in your chest before you see it. In this world, insects held the high ground. The air belonged to them. The floor belonged to them. You would not be the apex predator here. You would not even be prey worth chasing. You would be parasitic food for bugs the size of hawks. But the true horror was not above you. It was in the water. And it did not stay there. Rhizodus. 7 meters of freshwater nightmare. 2 tons of pressurized muscle wrapped around a skeleton that defied the rules of fish anatomy. This was not a creature that waited for prey to swim past. This was a creature that lunged onto land, that used its reinforced pectoral fins to drag itself through shallow water and mud, that ambushed tetrapods from rivers they assumed were safe. Its teeth were not teeth. They were auger drills, mechanical fangs that rotated upon impact, boring into flesh like hydraulic drill bits. Once they locked, there was no escape. The rotation pulled prey deeper into the throat. The jaw was a one-way door. Cross-section the skull. See the architecture. Pale bone white. Dark crimson muscle. The teeth angled inward at 30 degrees, each one a piston designed to grip, rotate, and pull. This was not evolution. This was engineering. And yet, even Rhizodus could not survive what came next. How did this world stop? The same way it started. With wood. At 305 million years ago, the climate cooled. The swamps began to dry. The scale trees, those 160-foot toothpicks with their alligator skin bark, collapsed in waves. Without the swamps, the wood stopped accumulating. Without the accumulating wood, the oxygen cycle broke. The pressure dropped. And the monsters that needed that pressure to breathe, to move, to exist at the scale they had achieved, they simply could not inhale enough air to power their bodies. The giants suffocated. Not in fire. Not in ice. In atmosphere. The coal forest was not a habitat. It was a forge. Step inside. Breathe. Your lungs fill with 35% oxygen, nearly double modern levels. Every breath is a drug. Every movement burns hotter. Your muscles fatigue faster because they are running too rich, overclocking on an atmosphere that was never designed for your physiology. The texture of bark presses against your skin, wet, rough, scaled like an alligator's hide. The trees are 160 feet tall but only 3 feet wide. A forest of giant toothpicks. They were never designed for structural integrity. They were designed for speed, racing upward toward light that barely reached the floor. Look down. The ground is not soil. It is a graveyard. Layer upon layer of unrotting wood. Trunks that fell decades ago, centuries ago, still intact. Still waiting. The bacteria that should have broken them down did not exist yet. The fungi that should have consumed them had not evolved the enzymes. So the wood stacked. Compressed. Weighted. The canopy blocks the sun. Not darkness, but dimness, a permanent twilight that makes shadows unreliable. You cannot trust your vision here. You must trust vibration. The low-frequency hum of wings. The hydraulic click of legs. You are standing in 60 million years of stacking corpses. And every single one of them will eventually become coal. But here is the part they do not teach you in geology class. That 90% of our coal is not just fuel. That is not just energy. That is evidence. You assume you would survive here. You assume your intelligence, your tools, your technology would give you an advantage. You are calculating based on physics that do not apply. In 35% oxygen, your skin burns more easily. Your stamina depletes faster. Your eyes, forward-facing, designed for depth perception, cannot track the lateral movement of predators evolved to flank you. You have no venom. No armor. No wings. No hydraulic pressure system to power your limbs. You are not the apex here. You are not even secondary prey. You are an inconvenience. Something too slow to chase and too small to notice. The small scorpions and dragonflies you see today are not descendants. They are the miniaturized echoes of giants that could not adapt when the pressure dropped. They are what remains when a world realizes its mistake and corrects itself. Now consider the callback. Every time you turn on a light, you are burning the compressed corpse of a world that broke. Every time you charge your phone, you are using the energy of a 60 million year failure to decompose. The coal in your grill, the electricity in your walls, this is not fuel you invented. This is fuel you inherited. From a planet that could not figure out how to clean up its own dead. We did not discover energy. We are simply burning the evidence of a biological catastrophe so massive that 300 million years was not enough time to erase it. The deep code is not about what lived. It is about what broke. When the next collapse happens, and it will, what part of our world will fail to rot? What will stack, compress, and wait? What pressure will build in the absence of decay? And what monsters will it feed, 300 million years from now, when something finally cracks open the evidence of our era and wonders what kind of world could have produced such nightmares?